Aloha, everybody. This is Cathy Bilsky, the Quantum Leap Let Light Unite show on UPRN Radio. And this is September 1st, 2017. My God, isn't the year just blowing by? And I've got a really special show for you tonight. And I knew we were going to do chants this week. That's what I said last week. But you know what? Mercury's in retrograde. And I actually thought we had one more Friday in this month. And oops, we don't. This is a first. But I've got Douglas Noll on, and he's going to talk about how to calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less. This is really awesome, awesome material. And before I get to Douglas, I do want to talk about, we're going to do a little bit of work on the hurricane tonight. And, guys, we worked on it last week, and we got the hurricane down to a level 1, okay? And I have to accept responsibility because I'm not sharing this with you, maybe not enough, that when you do energy work, you can't just do it one time and expect it to be done and over, okay? You might have to do it again the next day or 2 times that day and really, really give it a focus and attention. We got that hurricane downgraded from a 4 to a 1, and then that was it. It wasn't really given that much attention, and I'm blaming myself also because I didn't. So this time we're going to, God gave us another opportunity. Wow, isn't he cool? We've got Hurricane Irma coming our way. At least coming toward the East Coast. So we're going to work on that tonight. And guys, please don't take your focus off of it unless you see it's got to turn away from land and dissipate. Then you don't have to give it any more attention. And to make this easy, I've got How to Calm a Hurricane. It's all written out. You can check it out on my Facebook page. It's out there. It's on UPRN Radio, so you can read it and focus. I made it easy for you. So, okay, please just keep the focus up. And the other thing I wanted to say about chanting, which I said we were going to do this week, we're going to do it either next week or the week after. So maybe next week we're going to do soul retrieval. I haven't made up my mind yet to do that or more chanting. And really, guys, chanting is effective. Now, I'm going to have to believe that this is a little true, but they just come out and said yesterday that crime in Hawaii is down. Now, that could be because of the chanting. You think it's a coincidence? I personally don't. Have you paid attention to what's going on in your area? Have you seen anything positive? And it doesn't have to be anything big. So pay attention. What's around you? And God will give you signs that you've done the work and it's positive, and he will give you some kind of accreditation and just show you. So let's work on the Hurricane Irma. And for those of you who's going to participate, just sit down. And I want you to put your feet flat on the floor and sit up as straight as you can with your hands in your lap. And I want you to take some gentle deep breaths, but don't hyperventilate on me. And I want you to imagine yourself hooking up with the Creator. And you're going to send your gold and silver cord through the top of your head up to the Creator and feel all this incredible high energy just pouring into the top of your head, filling up your body. And imagine that energy flowing out your heart. And if you want, let it come out your hands. And we're going to imagine, again, we're in this huge stadium. We're going to have this big crystal in the center, 100-ton, might as well be huge. And above it, we're going to create this big bubble of light. And in this bubble, I want you to see in your mind's eye the Hurricane Irma. So let there be light. We call to Michael the Archangel, and I command you to take your sword of blue flame and cut free the hurricane energy that is man-made or created with any Tesla or HARP information, or even the CERN. As these elementals are cut free from their masters, I send the violet flame through the wind, rain, cloud energy to clean them up, commanding them to let their energy burn out through the flame, turning into a harmless, gentle rain. We send the angel light energy to heal the elementals as we now reconnect the hurricane energy to the divine. We command all the elementals to be neutral, calming down to a gentle rain. We ask Michael to take his sword and chop these storm fronts and see them dissipating in love, allowing a very gentle rain to come on land. And now we're going to place huge crystal wedges in front of the hurricane that goes from the ground floor 10 miles up into the sky and, God, 1,000 miles wide. And these crystal wedges are going to be put up in front of the land on the East Coast. And as the storm hits the crystal wedges, it either breaks up and scatters, or it's going to bounce and be redirected out to sea, where it's going to break up and scatter. Now we're going to see the barometric pressure raising until the storm gently disperses. And we're going to see the humidity level in the hurricane lowering. And we're going to also command the water elemental to not release any moisture into the air to feed the hurricane. Now there's a high to the north of Irma, and it's coming from Bermuda, stretching all the way east toward Europe. And we're going to command Michael, break up this high. And we're going to ask the angels and all the cosmic beings to redirect the energy of the typhoon Sandview, so its energy pushes Irma out to sea and dissipates and loses all its strength. So I want you to fill this bubble of light up with light and love, and just see Irma going out to sea and dissipating and gaining no strength. All right, fill it up with light and love. We're just going to take a deep breath and release it. All right, thank you guys. So just relax now and listen to all this information we're going to give you. Now, let me explain to you who Douglas Noll is. He's a lawyer turned peacemaker, and his calling is to serve humanity, and executes his calling at many levels. And Doug's work carries him into many dark places using pragmatic and practical skills of peace. He helps people resolve deep interpersonal and ideological conflicts. Now, he's an award-winning author of 3 books, a teacher, speaker, and trainer. His 4th book, De-Escalate, How to Calm an Angry Person in 90 Seconds or Less, and you can get it out now. And just briefly, Doug has been listed as one of the best lawyers in America since 2005 by U.S. News and World Report, is a Northern California super lawyer, and is one of 193 mediators worldwide selected for inclusion in their international who's who of commercial mediators. And he was honored as California Lawyer Magazine Attorney of the Year in 2012. Welcome, Doug, to the program. I'm really honored to have you on. You're a guy that knows stuff, huh?
Well, thank you, Cathy. You know, humility is kind of my way of life. So when I hear all these recognitions, they sort of roll off me, because it's not about the recognition, it's about the work. But thank you for having me. I'm really excited about talking with you and chatting with you about what I do and how your audience can learn from what I have to talk about.
And we're talking about how to calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less. Now, you know, how in the world did you go from lawyer to peacemaker?
Well, you'll like this story. So I moved, I grew up in Southern California, went back east to college, Dartmouth College, and then came back to California, went to law school, and in law school, I did well academically and decided to move to Central California, which is sort of the Iowa of California. And I moved here down here in 1977, and then worked for a judge for a year, and then went into private practice in 78 and tried my first jury trial in 2 months after I joined the firm in November, November of 1978. So I became a big-time trial lawyer, and I tried hundreds of cases. Well, along the way, I took up the martial arts and eventually earned my second degree black belt. And after that, my teacher called me in and said, "We need to talk." Really? Yeah. So we had a chat, and he said, "You're arrogant, you're an asshole, you're dangerous, and you're going to kill somebody. So you
Snap.
need to go learn Tai Chi because I'm not teaching you anything more until you learn more Tai Chi. So I said, okay. So I went out and studied Tai Chi. And Tai Chi has two really interesting, besides the energy aspect of it, which is very powerful and led me into healing, and I'm a healer. Tai Chi has two really interesting paradoxes. The first is the softer you are, the stronger you are. And the second paradox is the more vulnerable you are, the more powerful you are. Soft to be strong, vulnerable to be powerful. This did not compute. I could not understand these paradoxes. But I continued. I persisted. I'm very stubborn. And so I practiced and practiced and practiced. And eventually, one day in the courtroom, I was cross-examining somebody in my own inimitable, arrogant, aggressive style. And the thought came to me, what the heck am I doing in here? So the trial ended, and I had a planned vacation to do a whitewater trip up in Idaho. And so I spent 10 days on my raft all by myself with a bunch of friends. And because we were all professional ex-river guides and knew how to run whitewater. And so I had my raft all by myself. And I thought about all the people I had served and who came out better in the process. And at the end of the trip, I could count 5 people who I felt who had been served through the trial process and came out better than going in. And I said, it really sucks. So I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I came back to California. I live up in the mountains south of Yosemite, drove into town after the vacation and heard about a public service announcement for a new master's degree program in peacemaking and conflict studies offered by Fresno Pacific University, which is the West Coast Mennonite college. Now, the Mennonites are one of the 3 traditional Protestant peace churches. Yeah, peace traditions. They have a tradition of peace. So they have this West Coast University, and I decided, what the heck? Why not? So I enrolled and started studying peace and conflict. And it completely changed my life and my whole attitude about how things go. So I quit the practice of law in 2000 and became a peacemaker. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So that's basically the short story of what happened. But along the way, I had some really deep experiences and ultimately ended up working in maximum security prisons, teaching murderers how to be peacemakers. And I had developed some skills along the way that worked first time, every time, without failure, that taught inmates how to de-escalate violent conflicts right now, every time. And so many inmates came up to me over the years and said, gee, if I had these skills 20 years ago, I wouldn't be in prison right now. And slowly, over a period of time, my dim 50-watt light bulb brain went off and said, gee, maybe I should be teaching other people how to do this. And so that's kind of where I have evolved today. Teaching people how to calm an angry 2-year-old or a 90-year-old or anybody else, how to calm them down in 90 seconds or less. And so that's basically my mission right now.
I have got your book, and I have to tell everybody, he's really an incredible man. And because he's also offering it to people for free, and you pay the shipping and handling.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I have a philanthropist who is so supportive of my work that we can buy the book. If you pay the shipping, we'll buy the book.
Well, I have to say, and I've said this to you already, but I've been around as a healer for a long, long time. I'm no young'un either. And I judge people by their works, and people don't give away their stuff. And to me, it's a sign of a real master teacher who understands that people need the knowledge and should have it instead of putting a price tag on it.
Well, that's right. I'm a teacher first. I mean, we all have to pay our bills and pay our mortgages, but I am more interested in getting my ideas out into the world. I mean, look, Cathy, look, we live in a really angry world right now. We live in a political situation that is totally furious. People are enraged. We have to stop this. And our political leaders won't do this. They feed off the anger. So if we want peace, we have to do it ourselves. And I believe that I have a set of skills that can help us get there.
Well, I have to say that everybody I've shown this book to, they go, oh my God, I have to get it. And, I'm reading it, and it's not a book, guys, that, it's like a fairy tale novel that you can sit down and read in 5 hours. This is something that you're going to want to take, and you're going to want to really look at it and do a little bit of studying and actually apply it. And for me, I like to make notes when I go through and read it, because then I go back to my notes, which are really, really important, like cheat sheets. And you even have like a cheat sheet in the back of each chapter, which I thought was really delightful.
Well, you're right, Kat. I'm trying to teach people how to do this stuff. And it's not that difficult if we can overcome some basic cultural issues we have with ourselves. But the technique is really simple, and it's, to your point, I mean, we can become enlightened doing this work. It's powerful how this works. And I never imagined when I started on my journey that I would come to this place. But it's extremely powerful how we can transform others. And as we transform them, we enlighten ourselves. I mean, it's really incredible.
Well, let's dive into the book, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Absolutely.
talk about us being emotional beings and how we deal with that.
Okay, so the first thing that we have to recognize is that we are 98% emotional and 2% rational. This flies in the face of Western culture, because from the Greeks from Plato to the Neoplatonists and the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era, to the Christian Church of and Augustine in the 5th century, to the Enlightenment of Descartes, human beings in Western culture have put privilege on being rational. Wrong. We are emotional first and rational second. And because we have put such a privilege on rationality, we have completely ignored the fact that we're emotional beings. And only recently has neuroscience showed us that we are emotional first and rational second. So my whole technique is to recognize, one, we are emotional beings. We can't even be rational until we're emotional. How would you even know what to apply rationality to unless you are motivated to think about the problem? And that motivation comes from emotion. So we have to reject the idea that rationality is good and emotion is bad, and accept the fact that emotions are good. They teach us what to pay attention to. And the rationality is sort of a byproduct that helps us solve problems. So that's step number one, recognizing that huge, huge issue that our culture tells us is bad. I mean, I can remember as a 2-year-old, you skin your knee. Most men listening to this will recognize this. You're 2 years old, you skin your knee, you cry, it hurts. And what's the first thing that's told you? Hey, suck it up. Be a man. Don't be a sissy. Don't cry. You're told that emotions are bad. Now, imagine that young man 15 years later or 12 years later, 13, meeting a young woman and now entering into the first intimate relationship. And this is a kid who's been told that emotions are bad. What do you think the likelihood of that relationship working out is going to be? I mean, it's a train wreck. And this is how our society works. It's crazy. So what we have to learn how... okay, so what I was just going to say, what we have to learn how to do is pay attention to emotions, not rationality.
So you're saying ignore the words.
Ignore the words. So here are the 3 steps, really, really simply, and we can talk about this in more detail. Step number 1, When somebody is really emotional with you, they're angry, they're screaming at you, they're upset, they're going crazy. You think, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? Number one, ignore the words. For the next 90 seconds, the words are not important. If you listen to the words, you're going to get triggered, you're going to go crazy, you're going to get reactive. Bad news. Ignore them. Step number two, guess at the emotional experience of the speaker, whoever it is who's going off on you. Guess at their emotions. Mostly it's going to be anger at the top. Anger, frustration, anxiety, fear, grief. Those are the big ones, the big four. Guess at them. What's this person feeling right now? Step number three, and here's the hard part. Reflect back those emotions using a very simple you statement. You are angry. You are frustrated. You are feeling sad. You are feeling a lot of grief. Whatever it might be, state it right back to the speaker as you understand it. If you're wrong, no big deal. If you say, hey, man, you're really angry right now, or hey, you are really angry right now, and the speaker says, no, I'm not angry, I'm just frustrated, then you would come back and say, oh, you're really frustrated. Yeah, I'm really frustrated. Perfect.
Now, can I say something really quick that I noticed in your book is that you keep it very simple and short, and a lot of times you just need a 3-word response. You
That's right.
are, and you've got this list down here. Like it's like the 1, 2, 3, 4. The top 6 or the top 9, and you just have to learn those expressions and the feelings.
Right. So here's the thing to understand is that emotions come in layers. We never have one emotion. Whenever we're emotional, we have layers of emotions, and the layers go like this. Anger and rage at the top. Then there are what I call dignitary, not really emotions, but people relate to this. Not being heard, feeling like you're being treated unfairly, not being supported. These are not emotions, but they're close. So I call that the second layer, the dignitary stuff. And then under that would be fear. So that would be anxiety, fear, being scared. Underneath that fourth layer, it would be sadness and grief. And then underneath that is the deepest layer, unloved, abandoned, feeling existential threat to my life. I don't feel like I can live anymore. What we would call deep depression. So when you are labeling these emotions, you start with anger and you follow people down the rabbit hole. Where are they going? They're angry, but where's the anger coming from? Oh, they're scared. Oh, where's that fear coming from? They feel deep sadness and grief. And where's that coming from? Oh, I feel really unloved and totally abandoned as a human being. 2-year-olds to 90-year-olds, same thing. It's amazing how it works.
Well, I noticed that you've got something that works, and you just repeat it. It's like the same technique, maybe a little bit different, tweaked out. But it's the same, which makes it easy and simple to remember.
That's right. And here's the thing that's really cool that will resonate with people who are listening to this show, and that is that this is a spiritual practice. When you engage in this practice of labeling the emotions of another person, you are so focused on what they are feeling when you do it, when you start practicing this, that you lose your ego. You lose the sense of I-ness and you become one. You have a sense of oneness with the universe and a sense of oneness with the other person that puts you into a state of spiritual transcendence, which is absolutely amazing to experience. And you're only there for 15 or 20 seconds. But the fact that you can experience that while you're calming another person down is so powerful that I can't even describe what it's like. And it's accessible to everybody who could practice it. Every human being can experience this. It's amazing.
I have to say I've been practicing a little bit because a lot of people do come in to me for counseling or just to
Hmm.
talk and dump.
So tell me a
And
story. Tell me how it's working.
well, I had a man come in and he just needed to talk. And I would just, through just a couple of, you're really angry, you're
Wow.
hurt, you're feeling unloved because nobody's respecting you and they're ignoring you. And he just, talked a little bit more. And at the end, he said, God, thank you for listening. I feel
Isn't that
so much
amazing?
better.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
People
And
will thank you. Basically, Kathy, what we're doing is we're listening people into existence. They have never been heard before at the deep levels that we're talking about. And when we do that, they are so grateful because they've never been acknowledged and validated and vindicated in the way that we are talking to them. That's the stuff. It's incredible.
I've also found that, when you let people talk, they will also tell you their answer.
That's right. We don't have to give advice. All we have to do is listen to them and validate their emotional experience by reflecting back what that is. And they will then tell us what they need to do. And then we validate them for that. So we never have to give advice to anybody. The biggest problem that we have, I think, in our culture is that people will unburden themselves on us. And the first thing we want to do is give them advice. And really what's going on is go away. I can't deal with this emotion. Here, do this, do this, do this, do this. Go away. Don't bother me anymore. And really, that's not what people want. What they really want is to be listened to in a very deep way. And when we listen to them at this deep emotional level, they find the solution for themselves, and we don't have to give any advice. It's simple, and the whole thing takes less than 90 seconds. That's what's so incredible about it.
I do love easy. Now, what I want to jump to, if we can, is to what you call the agreements.
Agreements, right. So many, many conflicts arise because we have unstated expectations about what another person is going to do. And it doesn't matter whether it's you're in a intimate relationship or a relationship with your child or a relationship with a coworker, it doesn't matter. We seem to assume that other people understand what our expectations are. And so we enter into agreements without being specific, assuming that they can read our minds and they can figure out what we want to do. And of course, that always, no, not always, but mostly ends in disappointment and disaster. So one of the things that we have to learn how to do is how to reach agreements that are very, very specific. And it seems kind of crazy. Why would I make an agreement with a 6-year-old about what's going to happen? Well, the reason is because unless your 6-year-old understands exactly what your expectations are that you have verbalized, and your 6-year-old has told you exactly what his expectations are, you don't have an agreement. And if you don't have an agreement, you have the basis for frustration, anger, disappointment, and betrayal. So you have to take the time, even though it might take 2 or 3 minutes, to be really specific about what you want and what you expect, and to obtain the agreement from the other person, your 6-year-old, for example, about what he or she understands your expectations to be. It's so simple, and yet it's so difficult because we think, I don't have the time for this. Why should I lay out what I think needs to be done? Can't he read my mind? Fact, no. You have to be very, very specific. Don't assume a 6-year-old or your husband or wife or your intimate partner can read your mind. They can't. You have to be specific.
Well, what I like about the agreement is that you say what you expect and then you actually have them repeat it back to you.
That's correct. So, for example, if you and I were negotiating over an agreement, I say, Kathy, I really would like Starbucks cappuccino right now. So I would say, would you be willing to go out to Starbucks and grab me a cappuccino, a dry cappuccino, double shot, and bring it back? And you might say, yeah. So could you repeat back to me what it is that I'm requesting? And you would say, well, you want me to go to Starbucks and get you a cup of coffee and I'll come back. And I said, no, repeat back exactly what it is that I'm asking you. And she'll say, well, I didn't get it. And so I would say, all right, repeat after me. Go to Starbucks. And you would say, go to Starbucks. I would like a double shot dry cappuccino. I'm going to order you a double shot dry cappuccino. And bring it back to me, and I will bring it back to you. Now, that seems really stupid and really simplistic. But if you feed back to me what it is my request is, we have clarity around what we're looking for, and that eliminates conflict. You cannot believe how many conflicts arise because people have unstated expectations and assumptions around agreements.
Well, that's one of the things that I really liked about your book was, and I mean, God, I had 4 kids and at least 3 of them. I wish I would have known this before. You say clean the room and it's like, oh, no wonder why you're not getting anything done.
Right.
Because you do. You have your expectation, they have their expectation. And then, you do the agreements. Now, at my age, I would just simply say, God, give me a piece of paper and let's write this down. Okay. But with kids, I could see how you get them to keep repeating it. So there is understanding. And then you go a step further and you also talk about in part of the agreement, and correct me if I'm wrong, what are the consequences if the child, and let's use the child, not me.
Sure.
Kids are better. If they don't do, clean their room, the example that you give in the book.
Right.
What are the consequences?
So you have to assume in every agreement that there's the possibility that people will fall off the wagon. They won't do what they said they're going to do. So a good agreement accounts for that. What are we going to do if one of us doesn't do what we say we're going to do? How do we respond to that? And so you reach an agreement about what happens when there's a violation of the agreement. And you have a negotiation around that, a discussion around that, and you reach clarity around how do I deal with a violation. And when you do it, especially with children and kids, when you do it with kids and that expectation is clearly stated, guess what? Behaviors change radically because the kids now know that there are consequences that they have agreed to if they don't do what they say they're going to do. And all of a sudden, behavioral problems go away. It's amazing how this works. And it works because our brains are hardwired into this. This is not some woo-you psychological stuff. It's based on hard brain science. This is how we are hardwired to operate. So we work with our brains and the brains of our children and the brains of our spouses to allow this stuff to happen in a way that creates peace in our lives. I mean, it's powerful.
You're also teaching the children a new way of looking at life.
Of course. They're learning what? They're learning how to make agreements. They're learning how to be specific in their expectations. They're learning how to be accountable and responsible, and they're learning that there are consequences when they violate what they said they're going to do. How powerful is that? It's incredible. So
yes,
simple.
Indeed.
So simple, and yet so difficult because we have somehow lost the ability to make agreements with people. We somehow think that, oh, because you're my kid, I'm going to tell you what to do. And I just expect that you're going to obey me because I'm your parent. I mean, wrong. No, kids are autonomous beings. We are in negotiation all the time with anybody who's around us. And we have to be very clear about what our needs are, what we expect, and secure agreement from other people that they will fulfill our agreements. Otherwise, we're destined to conflict and despair.
It must be a hoot to be your wife. I mean, you guys must have some real, she get upset and you're okay, you're angry. It's got to be a hoot.
I mean, I am so blissfully married to the most beautiful woman in the world, in my opinion. We don't argue. And we have not had an argument in years. And when we have any kind of issue, we have learned how to manage each other's emotions. So I label her emotions, she labels my emotions. We calm down, and then we think about, okay, what's the issue here? What do we need to do? And in seconds, we solve the problem. There are no fights in my marriage. None, zero, gone, no, nothing, no conflict.
See, there you goes, there you go, guys. It just takes one to start something really incredible. Okay, so if it can happen in one family, it can happen anywhere. Okay.
Well, let me take it a little further. I mean, if you really want a dramatic example of how powerful this is, the last 9 years I've been working in maximum security prisons in California, teaching murderers how to do this, how to stop gang violence, how to stop rapes, how to stop murders, how to stop fights, how to stop any kind of argument or fight that you can imagine that exists in a prison, teaching murderers, lifers, how to stop the violence in their prisons to incredible success. This stuff works in the darkest places you can possibly imagine. Powerful.
I have to admit, when I started reading your book and you put that right in front, that did get my attention.
That's right.
So you have many, many examples on how to de-escalate. And one of them is how to de-escalate yourself. Do you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I've learned in teaching murderers how to be peacemakers is that if you learn how to calm another person down using the skills that we talk about, these de-escalation skills, what happens in a very short time is that you learn how to de-escalate yourself. And I will just tell you a quick story. I had an inmate who I've trained for many years, and he came up to me a couple of years ago and he said, I got to tell you the story. He said, I was standing in line. I don't know what kind of line it was. There are lots of lines in prison. I was standing in line, and this guy just butted in front. In the past, I would have gotten very reactive and very angry. But this time, I said to myself, wow, I'm really angry. I'm really frustrated. I feel deeply disrespected. And then he said, I thought to myself, how do I want to respond to how I feel? What are my choices? And then I thought about it, and I said, is this really a big deal? And then I thought to myself, no, it's not a big deal. This guy's a jerk, but I don't care. And he said to me, before it would have resulted in a fight to the death, today, no big deal. He's a jerk. Let him stand in line in front of me. It's not that big a deal. Think about it.
That's powerful.
It is powerful. I mean, that's how powerful you're. Think about this. You're in a parking lot in a mall. It's Christmas time, wherever you are. It's raining or snowing or whatever. It's miserable weather. You've been looking for a parking place for 10 minutes, and you finally see somebody backing out, and you're about ready to go in that parking place, and some guy in a big pickup truck with a shotgun rack on his back of his pickup truck zips in front of you. I mean, you are now royally pissed. But think about that. So I'm really angry. I'm really frustrated. This guy is totally selfish, totally unaware, totally into himself, had no clue that there's turn taking here. And so how do I want to respond to his selfishness? I have compassion for the guy. Here's a guy who's being a complete idiot, and he's so unenlightened that sad. His life must be miserable that he has to do this sort of thing. Isn't that a better reaction than going into road rage and wanting to get out and shoot the guy? I mean, that's the point. That's the point. Are we there? Hello?
Sorry. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
You can't accidentally press the mute because then you go mute, huh?
Oh, well, there we go. Good. Okay. So my point being that imagine being able to deal with the everyday vicissitudes of life where people are just rude and they're unconscious and they're just getting our way. And it's frustrating and maybe even disrespectful and creates anger. And be in a place where we can say, okay, I'm angry. I'm disrespected. I'm feeling frustrated. This person is a jerk. And then being able to say, how do I want to respond to that? And you choose. I choose compassion. Oh, this poor person. How sad his life or her life must be. That is the place that we can all be in if we're willing to take these tools up and learn them and master them. Really powerful.
Do you actually hold classes?
I do. I mean, I would like to hold more classes. Obviously, I want I feel my mission is to push these skills out as far and wide as possible. These days, I'm teaching professionals, and so that means lawyers, judges, mediators. I've also worked with high school and middle school teachers, so I teach a lot of teachers this work. But I really want. Here's what I really want. I really want to teach people how to teach this stuff, and I want to get into every faith community, every community center, every neighborhood, and teach people how to teach these skills so that there's no more need for violence. People learn how to de-escalate in a really calm, powerful, enlightened way. That's my goal. And I want to calm this angry world down. We live in a really angry world right now. I mean, you were talking about the hurricanes in Houston and Irma bearing down, and we look at what's going on in Washington with the Congress and the president and all the crap that's going on. Totally unnecessary. But those people are not going to change our world. We have to change it ourselves. We have to do it person to person, family member to family member, community member, faith community, schools. That's where this all has to change. It's not going to happen on Fox News or CNN or any of these other places. It's got to happen with each of us saying enough is enough. Let us learn how to de-escalate.
When you see it on CNN and Fox, you know you're there.
That's right. That's right. It's crazy. But there's no reason for it.
Let's do a few examples. Okay. So if you got an angry coworker, how would you de-escalate that?
So supposing a coworker comes up to you and says something like, you're a real jerk. You took all the credit for the project that I worked on, and that was just really stupid, and you are really an ass kisser. Something like that, okay? Which happens, right? People come up to us and they attack us. They attack us personally. So my response would be, you are really angry. You're really frustrated. You feel deeply betrayed. You feel like you have not gotten credit, and so you feel a deep, deep sense of abandonment and betrayal, and you don't feel supported, and you don't feel listened to. And you feel like there's loss here. There's something you've lost. And the response will be something like this. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly how I feel. And I'll say, yeah, you feel really betrayed. You feel like you've lost something and you've been disrespected. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And notice how the tone of voice drops slowly. And within 90 seconds, the coworker will say, yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you. And then you would invite problem solving. You said, well, so how do you think we should solve this problem going forward? What could we have done differently? Now you're in problem solving mode, and that coworker who's being a real jerk will all of a sudden be willing to engage with you because you have de-escalated the emotions to a point where his or her prefrontal cortex can come back online, and you'll say, okay, let's solve the problem. How can we prevent this from happening again? And that's exactly what you do.
Okay. How would you de-escalate a bully?
A bully. Okay. Well, a little more difficult. First of all, incipient violence where you are about to be harmed, get the hell out of there if you can. I mean, move away. I mean, we tell this to our inmates. If you're in a place where there's incipient violence that you're going to get involved in, do the best you can to protect yourself. But let's assume that's not the case. You've just got a bully who's just being mean. So I would say to a bully, you are really angry. You are really frustrated. You feel like nobody's listening to you. You feel deeply betrayed. And you feel like nobody's honoring you. And most bullies, not all, most bullies will look at you and say, what? And you say, yeah, you don't feel honored. You feel deeply disrespected. And the bully will process that and say, yeah, you're right. And so you need to be respected and heard and listened to because you're not feeling listened to and respected and heard right now. And you're really angry about that. And the bully will say, yeah, you're right. And 9 times out of 10, the bully will back down. Now, the bullies there's 1 out of 10, 2 out of 8 that are not going to do that. And they'll push back and be crazy because they are afraid of the vulnerability that you're opening up with them. And so their defense against that vulnerability will be violence. Get out of the way, back off, because there's not much you can do with them right then.
All right, then I think we can talk about, can you explain your peace circles?
Sure. So there's an ancient process, probably started when our predecessors millions of years ago learned how to make fire, where we can sit in a circle. And the circle process is about listening to other people. So I like to do this in families. I like to teach families how to do this. So imagine you got a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And you come home at the end of the day and you're totally wiped out. Work was just totally stressful. And the kids are going off the wall and they're hungry and it's time for dinner. So maybe one of you, of the two parents, assuming it's a 2-parent family, works on dinner, and the other one sits down with the kids and says, all right, let's sit in a circle. So they sit on the floor in a circle, and they say, we're going to start, and I want you to tell me the very best thing that happened to you today. What's the greatest thing that happened to you today? So one child starts and says, this happened to me today. It was fabulous. The next person, depending on which direction you go, I tend to go clockwise. So that means the person to the left will reflect back what that kid says. Oh, the greatest thing that happened to you today was that your teacher complimented you because you had prepared your homework. And the kid who just spoke said, yeah. So that means the next person has earned his or her turn to speak. The best thing that happened to me today was whatever it is. And then the next person to the left summarizes back or reflects back what was said. Go around the circle. It takes 5 minutes to go through the whole circle. Then you ask the next question. What do you hope to happen tomorrow that will give you great joy in life? 3-year-olds can answer this question. And you do the same thing again. And they go around the circle, and every time somebody speaks, the next person on their left reflects back what they said and then earns the turn to speak, and you go around the circle. The whole thing takes maybe 15 minutes. Do that exercise in your family, and you will find incredible transformations occurring as people, children and adults, learn how to listen to each other and learn how to process how each person in the circle is feeling. We have introduced this process into maximum security prisons and watch people. I'll tell you a story. We used to work in what used to be the largest, most violent women's prison in the world. It's not that anymore. Not that way anymore because of what we've done. But we had a woman step into a circle. She had not talked to anybody in 20 years. She had been in prison for 20 years, never said a word to anybody. She stepped into the circle, sat down. They went around the first time she passed. They kept talking. The second time in the circle, she started talking for the first time in 20 years. And the people in the circle were astounded that she had opened up because it was safe. And she felt like this is a place where she could really express herself and be understood. So these peace circle processes, simple, elegant, and very, very powerful.
You also, we've just barely scratched.
I know.
I
There's a
feel
lot.
what we've
There's a lot
gone
here
through
tonight.
Oh, Lord, there is. Can I become a master teacher trainer?
Absolutely. I would love to teach you and everybody you know.
But I'm serious, okay?
I'm serious too.
What an excuse to come to Hawaii, hey?
I love Hawaii, so I'm there. I'm in California, not that far away.
That's true. But I also want to tell people that, part of the book that you have is you teach people and do little exercises on how to actually help them recognize different emotions.
Right. So we have an innate ability because of a set of neurons in our brain called mirror neurons. We have the innate ability to recognize the emotional experience that other people are having. We can do this automatically without thinking about it. And so all we have to do is pay attention to that information, which then gives us the ability to reflect back the emotional experience of another person. And as I said before, even if we're wrong, it doesn't matter. The speaker will correct us, and then we just feed back what the correction is. But we have that ability. And the problem we have, Cathy, is that our culture so ostracizes, diminishes our emotional experiences that we learn that rationality is important, emotions are bad, and feelings are bad, and this is just not what it means to be human. Wrong. What makes us human is our emotions, not our rationality. There is no other animal on the planet that has emotional complexity like human beings. And it's the emotions that make us who we are, not the ability to think through problems. I mean, the ability to think through problems is important, don't get me wrong. But until we start acknowledging that our feelings and emotions are just as important, if not more important, than being able to solve problems, than being a rational thinker, we're doomed for conflict. So that's why in this whole process of my education, I used to, like a lawyer, I would hear these terms, irrationality. Oh, he's irrational. I don't know. That language doesn't exist with me anymore. Oh, he's having an emotional experience. She's having an emotional experience. Let us work through this emotional experience and bring them back to a place where they can problem solve using some form of rational thinking. But we just need to let them, lead them, guide them, process them through this emotional experience they're having so we can get them back to a place where maybe we can apply some problem solving skills. That's the mindset we have to have.
It's really being strong also. And I have to bring up this example that you had with teenagers. And, when they get angry, and actually sitting down and realizing, you are having an emotional experience, you're angry, and I'm
Right.
going to sit here and allow you to be angry, and go ahead, get as angry as you want, because I'm going to be here.
That's right. We have to sit there with our teens or our spouses or our parents in or our grandparents when they're in deep pain and say, you know what? I love you. I'm going to sit here and let you just wallow in whatever experience you have to experience right now. And I'm not going to reject you. I'm not going to get defensive. I'm not going to be anxious. I'm just going to help you process whatever it is that you have to experience until you come out of it. I'm here for you. And then you label their emotions and just be with them in a very pure, powerful way. And a couple of minutes later, they're out of it. It only takes a couple of minutes, 90 seconds, really, at the most. It's
I
incredible.
know. I
It's
thought
so
that was
easy.
brilliant.
It's so counterintuitive, and yet it's so simple. And that is my goal in life, is to teach people how to do this. If I can keep one kid from going to prison because his parents have learned these skills, then it makes the whole effort worthwhile.
I understand. So how can people get the free book?
So the simplest way, really, here's the deal. I've got a philanthropist. He basically says, you pay the shipping, we'll buy the book. So it's $7. Pay the shipping for shipping and handling. The book, if you were to buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any fine bookstore seller, when it comes out in another 10 days, it'll be $16, $17. So you can get it at a little less than half price. Go to DougNoll.com, DougNoll.com. There's a banner on the homepage of my website. Click on the homepage. It will take you to the sale page. Put in your shipping information, credit card, $7. The book will come to you from Amazon probably next week. As soon as Amazon gets the books, I've gotten my copies, so I know they're out. It's out of the printer's shop, so they're on their way to the booksellers. And if you don't want to do that, totally cool. You can buy these books anywhere. Any good bookseller will be carrying these books. And the publisher is Simon & Schuster, so well-known, big-time publisher, and these books will be everywhere. But if you want to get the deal, then go to DougNoll.com, click on the banner, go, just follow the process. It'll take you right through, no problem.
Well, I think that's awesome, and everybody take advantage of this, and this is right now just for people in the United States.
Yeah, right now it's limited to people in the United States. So if you're listening from Canada or anywhere in North America other than the United States, or you're overseas, unfortunately, I can't offer the deal to people who are outside the United States. So just go to your favorite bookseller, wherever you are, and the book should be available in the next 10 days.
Can they get a Kindle version?
There's a Kindle version, and my beautiful, incredible, gorgeous wife has just finished recording the Audible version. So it will be in Audible, and an audio version will be out. So it'll be Kindle, print, and audio on audible.com in the next 3 weeks, we hope.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Douglas, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Cathy. This has been great. You are so kind.
And I hope you come back again and we can talk some more.
Anytime you want, I would love to chat with you.
And on that note, we've run out of time. And have a great week, everybody. And remember, Mercury is still in retrograde till the 5th. So if things are not going right, you can blame it on Mercury. Aloha.